Hello class! Today we are going to have a special lesson on DC Universe Classics Wave 16 figure number 1. Or maybe even 1. Oh, sorry. Jonah Hex for the adult collector. I have to say I was looking forward to this one. I've always liked Jonah Hex. The movie sucked. But I've always liked Jonah Hex since I saw him in Batman the Animated Series, and I think it's awesome that he's gotten a figure. Here we've got an emblem for Jonah Hex. We can see the guns with the eyes in it. I don't know, and plus, this side is all screwed up because, Jonah Hex that side of his face is all screwed up. I don't know if Jonah Hex has an emblem to speak of, but I guess that would be close enough. I guess I had to think of something if he didn't have one. We have a collect and connect figure piece. I'm going to say it right one of these times, and we get a left leg. On the back, we can see some of the other figures in the wave. We've got Hex, who we're talking about, the Creeper, the Riddler, Robin, there's 2 of them, Mercury, and Azrael Batman, and they form Bane, because Bane is awesome. Here we've got a closer look at Mr. Hex, and all of his badassedness, and we can read his biography here. As a child, Jonah Hex was sold by his father to an Apache chieftain and trained in the Apache ways of war. When the chief's son challenged Jonah to a ritual tomahawk duel, that's awesome, Jonah broke the rules and the tribe punished him by searing his face with a red-hot tomahawk. Cast out, hideously scarred, and utterly alone, Hex rode west to make a living as a bounty hunter. He became a fugitive's worst nightmare. That's not what happened in the movie. There was some dude who was like a trader who was trying to build atomic weapons or something in the Old West, and wait a minute, the movie doesn't follow the comics? Anyways, the movie was so bad. I like Josh Brolin too, and actually I thought he was good as Jonah Hex, just the rest of it was ass. Anyways, his first appearance was All-Star Western Volume number 2, in issue number 10, sorry, March 1972, so he's not as old as some of the rest of them. His real name is Jonah Hex, he's a bounty hunter. His base of operations is the Old West. How generic is that? They couldn't even give him like a state, a city. The Old West. I guess he was kind of a nomad. His special abilities: top physical condition with amazing tracking skills and the ability to live off the land. Excellent marksman with any firearm. You know what's awesome about him? At least according to this, he has no special powers. He's just badass. Which is excellent. Not like that weird crap from the movie. Now actually, I do know that, I did read about Jonah Hex once on Wikipedia, and it looks like they just kind of went crazy with his story because they ran out of things for him to do in the Old West. So maybe it's not all totally inaccurate. Anyways, so there we got the other side, which also says collect and connect figure piece. And there we've got him in the front with guns, which is awesome. You can see some of the detailing on him. And again, like all the rest of the figures from this wave, we've got images of members of the Justice League here on the back. I am totally excited for this figure. I like Jonah Hex, and I think he is going to be awesome. So I'm not going to wait any longer. We're going to open up this figure, and we shall have a closer look at Jonah Hex. And we're back. We're looking at Jonah Hex. I'll give you a quick 360 of the figure here. I have to say, I'm going to say this right now, I like this figure a fair bit. This, I think, is my favorite one. The most desirable. But before I gush too much, we can talk about the character here, or sorry, the color scheme on the figure. And we can see he is wearing his Confederate uniform. And we can even see it looks like it's taken a beating. It's kind of grungy along here, and looks like that's a bullet hole, and looks like he's got another bullet hole here, and there's a little flesh color underneath, which is amazing detail. I just don't like the fact that his overcoat is tarnished in that way. But we can see the different shades of gray, and how it looks like it's sun faded and beaten up, and even his legs. He's wearing pants, which are blue, but we can see that they're faded, they're grayed out. Same thing with his hat. Just looks old and kind of weather beaten, which I guess you could say kind of Jonah Hex as well. Even his gloves, a nice kind of leather look, and again, they look a little bit beat up as well. Same thing with the belt, or his holster and belt for his gun. They even were nice enough to paint the spurs on his boots the right color. It's very good. And the face, which is going to be a little bit harder to look at, just because he's got the hat. You can see they even painted his eyes. He's got the blonde hair. I'm not sure if he was a blonde or not. I can't remember. But I'm just going to assume that he was. And we can see his teeth there, and even his gums, where he's got his scar. Looks really, really good. And then, of course, his regular looking side of his face. Excellent, excellent coloring and detail on this figure. In fact, maybe this is supposed to be an old blood stain. And same with that one too, those little holes in his torso. In terms of, I guess, the mold, we've kind of talked about that a little bit as well. Kind of at the same time, we've got the bullets here for his shotgun. And we can see the wrinkles in the coat and even the hat. And it's got little bits taken out, like something happened at one point and there's a little bit taken out of his hat. Even up here. And again, the little holes in his tunic, or I guess his coat. The details even actually on the feathers that he has. Pretty well done, and the coloring is nice. Again, he's got wrinkles on his pants. Now, this is going to seem a little odd. We're going to try to flip up the coat a little bit. And you can see even the detail for his pants. You can see where the zipper is, or the fly, the front of his pants are. They even thought of putting that in there, which is actually pretty excellent because, let's face it, how many people are going to be trying to look up Jonah Hex's pants? But there it is, just in case you were wondering. So lots of detail. Again, the coat, we can see the damage. And even there on the back, we can see it says Mattel Inc., just in case you weren't sure. We've even got the lace on those boots. You can feel the texture there. It's not painted on. That's actually part of the sculpt. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Totally thrilled with this figure. What else do I want to talk about? Well, I guess we'll talk about his articulation. If there's one thing the figure suffers for, it's articulation. And it's just because of the fact that they put so much work into, I think, the sculpt. But his head does go all the way around. And it goes up and down a little bit. His arms are a little tougher. Honestly, I don't know if I can make it rotate all the way around or not. It's going to be pretty tough. Oh, there we go. It does move up, but honestly not a whole lot. I think that's just part of his shoulders. The arm does rotate, which is nice. And we've got the bend at the elbow. Now, as I was talking about before, some of the figures in this wave have a double joint at the elbow, and Jonah Hex here only has the one. His hand, that's going to rotate at the wrist, but it doesn't have any of the up or down motion, I don't think, because I can't make it do it, that the other ones had. He does not have that extra joint in his upper torso, which allows him to look up and down, or move his chest up. He does rotate at the waist, all the way around. His legs, I think, are probably standard, because this piece of his coat, obviously it's separate, and it hangs down. It does restrict the movement of his legs a little bit. It should be standard, but again, this piece here makes it a little more difficult. His leg does rotate at the thigh. He's got the one joint for the knee, which bends, and then he's got the boot, which, or his foot, the ankle joint there, which goes back and forth. We do suffer a little bit in terms of posability, articulation. But you know what? That's something I'm actually willing to sacrifice on this figure. I just don't really care. Anyways, now for his accessories, he does have the handgun in his left hand here, and that's the way it was packaged. And again, you can just barely see it there. It does have that kind of clear rubber band, and I am leaving that as such because honestly, I think if I take it off and take the gun out of his hand, it'll never go back in properly or hold as well as it does now. So I think that's going to stay. It does make him a left-handed shot, at least with his revolver. Over here on the side, we've got the holster for it. So we could put it in there if we wanted to make him unarmed or at least not holding his guns for a minute. And on the back, we have his shotgun, which I have in its holster. I had a really hard time reefing it in there, so I decided to leave it until I shot the review, and then we can take it out. Oh, there we go. Whoop, sorry, lost it somewhere. So his double-barreled sawed-off shotgun, little hand cannon. We can put that in his other hand just to kind of increase his firepower a little bit. You can have him holding that as well, which is excellent. Very, very happy with that. I love the level of detail and the fact that he's got the two weapons, and just looks pretty cool. And the fact that he has a place to hold his weapons when he's not actually wielding them is also nice. There we go. And we can pop that back in there. The first time was difficult, but that time it wasn't too hard. That's good. What else I want to say about this figure? Actually, you know what? When I looked at this figure, you know what it originally reminded me of? Especially when I looked at his face. It reminded me of Harvey Dent from Dark Knight. Just the way his face looks. Now, maybe it should be the other way. Harvey Dent, the way he looked there, should remind me of Jonah Hex. But it never did before until I really saw it now. And I mean, let's face it, where else have I seen Jonah Hex? I never followed the comics, but, you know, I saw him in Batman, the animated series, where I really first saw him. I thought he was cool. So I think in that episode, Jonah Hex was going after some dude who turned out to be the son of Ra's al Ghul. And then we see him again in Justice League in, what, Tales of the Weird West? I can't remember the exact episode name, but I think it was something along those lines, which I think was a title or a subtitle or something related to Jonah Hex in the comics. And then he is also in that animated short, Jonah Hex, which was part of, oh geez, one of the DCU movies. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. Was it? I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was Batman. I can't remember. I'll have to find out. I think I have it somewhere. At any rate, so we've seen him a few times, and he always kind of looks the same. He's got that bit of skin that's still attached, and you can see his cheek there, or his cheek is gone, and you can see the teeth underneath. Actually, it's kind of a standard look for a lot of zombies, too, in zombie movies, having that little bit of the face gone and the teeth seen underneath. Does look pretty good. Now, there's one small gripe. I mean, the articulation I've mentioned, and that actually doesn't bother me. If you look up here at his head, you can see the hat doesn't come all the way down on his head. There's a little gap in there. And I don't know if that was just poor craftsmanship, part of the design. Now, I'll face it, most of the time you're not going to notice when you have him standing there. It's just when I'm fiddling around with it, I saw it, and I'll always see it now. I have to say, I think this figure is excellent. It does, as I said, loses a little bit of the posability, which is sad for action figures, but it makes up for it in just the amount of detail in his clothes and the way he looks. It kind of reminds me of some of those horror movie figures you see. Who makes those? Was it NECA? Just an exceptional amount of detail. Seems to go along with the fact that the figures that I like the best from DCU are the ones that are not just, they don't just use the standard molds. This isn't just a standard DCUC figure with some different paint application. It looks like they had to more or less start from scratch. I mean, yeah, the joints are the same as the way they always are, but they couldn't just use another mold or the same mold and just paint it a different color, kind of like Riddler or whomever. And I think that's the reason I really like this one. They had to spend a lot of time making the details. Excellent, excellent figure. I really like this one. Now, I guess as a bonus, because I really like the Jonah Hex figure, it does come with a leg of Bane. His, I guess, right leg. We can stand there next to him. We're going to look at Bane on his own when we build the figure, so we won't spend too much time on the leg, but there it is, and we can see Bane is going to be pretty big. It's about half the leg is half the size of Jonah Hex himself. Jonah Hex is a figure I would have bought on its own. He's probably, for me, my favorite figure from the wave. He's probably the most unique, and I think for DCU figures, I think he's long overdue, because I've always liked this character. Maybe it's just because I like Westerns, and he's just awesome. I just don't know what else to say. I'm just kind of gushing over this figure. I think he's excellent. In my opinion, the best one from the wave. If I was going to give him a grade, he gets a grade of an A. Solid. He's excellent. Maybe not my absolute favorite figure of all time. Those are kind of the A+ range ones, right? But he's definitely up there. He will be displayed prominently along with some of my other favorite DCUC figures. So I think that is our review on Jonah Hex from DC Universe Classics Wave, I think it was 16. Thank you very much. Class is dismissed.